Welcome to Transcendent. I'm Joe, and I'm the dad.
And I'm Raya, and I'm the daughter.
Boy, we went to this restaurant last week. I ordered the chef's special.
Uh-huh.
When the waiter came by, I said, "Hey, waiter, can you tell me what's in this chef's special?"
Was it because, you wanted the recipe so you could make it later, or what?
No, I just wanted to know what was in it in case my doctor asked me.
We frequently on this podcast will talk about how LGBTQ people are normal. In that it's not strange, it's not any stranger than any other thing that humans have. It's just a normal part of being a human. However, we don't normally talk about how that word normal gets weaponized against people like us to keep us in the closet, to feeling shameful, to feeling like we shouldn't come out. We want to talk about how that word normal gets used as a club to beat us.
Normal. Boy, you talk about normal. Let me ask you, what is normal? Is normal just the majority? Is that what makes you normal? That you are the majority in everything? Or are there some things you might be a minority in, and does that make you not normal? For example, I happen to eat my meal differently than most people do. When I sit down to eat my meal, I eat all of one thing and then all of the next thing. I don't go around and eat a little of this and a little of that.
So you eat all of the potatoes at once and then all of the turkey.
Correct.
And then you eat all of your cranberries.
Yes, or my carrots, whatever. I've done that with everything. Even when Mom would make a mixture of different fruits and put it into this fruit thing, I'll eat all of the berries and then I'll eat all of the bananas, and that's just the way I've always eaten. I eat my food in courses.
And I think we all have things like that. Like for me is one that people don't see, but I'm aware of it every time I go for a drive. I have this, I don't know that I would call it a game that I play, but I imagine the car doing strange things as we drive along. And I've done this ever since I was 8 years old, that, they have posts along the road, and
Yes.
I would imagine the car having a hook on it, and the hook would hook that, and it would go around the post, and then it would go to the next one and go around the post. And I have literally done this on every single car ride since I was 8 years old. If there's no post, then I'll imagine a hook on the top, and it hooks around. If there's an overpass, I imagine the car going around. Or I imagine the two wheels jumping on, when it has the dashed lines. I imagine it jumping. And I've done this on every single car ride ever. We all have strange things. That is pretty strange, I think.
That is really strange. Have you ever run across anyone else who does that?
I don't think so, but it's hard to know because we don't talk about it.
No, that's not. Actually, I have run across quite a few people who eat their food in courses. It's not as strange as you might think. Your Uncle Victor does that.
Okay.
And I'm proud of hearing the fact that I've got somebody else in my relation who does that.
Now, when we talk about normal, I would challenge you to think of anybody that you know well enough, that you have gotten to know their quirks and their mannerisms. Any single person that you would say they're normal. I can't think of one person. I can think through high school teachers. Not one of them would I say they were normal. I can think of coworkers. Not one of them would I say they're normal.
Because your definition of normal is being the majority. If you're not part of the majority, you're saying you're not normal. I'm left-handed. 10% of the people in the world, maybe 12% of the people in the world, are left-handed. That doesn't make me abnormal. It makes me, yes, in the minority. But I will tell you, it's okay. It's normal. Normal does not mean majority. It's the same with red-haired people. There only are a small percentage of people that have natural red hair. Does this mean that they're not normal? They're in the minority, in a very small minority. There are certainly a lot more people who have black hair and brown hair and blonde hair than there are that have red hair.
I am wondering, I have a hypothesis that the real reason that you chose to start this podcast was so that you could tell the world over and over again that you are left-handed.
And proud of it.
You are proud of it.
I am a proud left-hander, and so is Mom.
I remember seeing Mom having things set up around her office. Lefties are all right. And having various left-hander things, having a left-handed mug around the house and things like that. You do talk about those a lot. And that is how we do with our quirks. Those things end up kind of defining us in a way because they're part of who we are.
But what the thing is about that is society does not chastise me or embarrass me or tell me I'm wrong or tell me that, well, they might tell me I'm wrong, but, or that it is something that is unacceptable. That is something that is wrong. There's something wrong with me because I'm left-handed, or there's something wrong with someone because they happen to have red hair. They accept it. And when they don't accept something, then they can marginalize those people, which is inappropriate. That's where all of this comes from. I am here to say that I know LGBTQ people are just as normal as everyone else. And nobody is totally normal.
Right. And really, with this episode, we wanted to go beyond our normal message that we try to give over and over again, which is really, really important, that it is normal to be LGBTQ+. But what we really wanted to talk about today is to challenge the way that that word normal is used. Because the reality is, even if it was not normal to be LGBTQ, that doesn't make it wrong.
That's right.
There are lots of things that people do that are not normal, that put us outside of the realm of, the average. You think about a bell curve and you've got people over at one end and people over at another end, but most of the people are in the middle of the bell curve. I don't care where you fall on that bell curve. If you are not hurting people, then what you are doing and who you are is not wrong. And I want to stand up and say, I'm sick of using this idea of I have to be normal as a way to keep me from being myself. I think I have learned that from you, that you never, in my lifetime, that I can remember any time where you said, well, that would be odd. I would be an odd person if I did that. You always have been yourself, and you have been proud to be yourself. Even when people have said, oh, yeah, that's Joe again.
Yeah.
I mean, even when we have Andy give his little plug for us during the intermission there, during the halftime of the podcast, whatever we call that, the little break. And he kind of pokes fun at you. Joe makes the worst jokes of anybody that I know. And you kind of enjoy that when people make fun of that.
I do. I have that reputation, and I don't mind it at all. That's why I like to start each one of these podcasts with one of my goofy jokes.
I had a roommate a while back that said, you are just like your dad, but only half. You're half as much. And so I have a lot of the dumb, stupid jokes. But for people that don't know you, I'll say, wait till you meet my dad. You think I'm bad? Wait till you meet him.
And I'm proud to say I believe that is normal.
It is normal. But I think the point, though, that we're making right now, more than just that it's normal, is that whether it's normal or not doesn't matter, because you are being who you are. And I get to be who I am. And that's what we really want. So let's talk for a moment about the mechanism for how normal gets turned into a weapon. So there's really four ways. First thing, you see the difference is turned from just being a difference into being a deficiency. You are made to feel somehow less than other people. Why? Because you're different. And different doesn't just mean different. Think about it. There's nothing in the word different that means bad. That means wrong. That means lacking. It just literally means different.
Right. Yeah, I had a bicycle when I was a kid. And I knew somebody up the street that had a unicycle. Boy, that was different.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I bet it was.
Yeah, I was really surprised. And he learned how to ride it and it made it look really cool.
Sure. And think about how many times do we say, you know what I really would like right now is something different. Everything always feels the same. I just want something different right now. But why is it that then that gets weaponized against LGBTQ people of, oh, well, you're different. You're weird. You're a freak. You're queer.
They say that because of the way I eat my food.
And a lot of other things.
Yeah, exactly.
Another way that it gets turned into a weapon is they will take statistical variation and turn that into moral judgment. They will take is and turn that into an ought. They'll say 95% of people are this way. And then they'll say, therefore, you ought to be one of those. Well, no. Nothing about the statistic of being 95% of the people being this way says that the other 5% are wrong, bad, or anything else. But yet, you throw these statistics out there, and it can be very easy to import this logical fallacy that the people in the 5% are somehow not what they need to be.
Every person in the world, in some form, in some category, is in a minority. In fact, every person in the world is in more than one minority in something. There are lots of minorities. That doesn't make those people abnormal. It means everyone in some form or other is a little bit different, and that's okay. And in fact, in many cases, it's a welcome thing. It's really interesting. It not only makes that person a little bit different, it makes them a little bit more adept at some things than something else. There's some things some people can do and others can't. There are so many different ways that we can look at this and say what is normal. I think, listener, I think you're getting the point here.
Right. The third way that the word normal gets weaponized is by creating an invisible standard that conveniently matches whoever's in charge or whoever has the power. Think about in high school to begin with, normal is a way that the popular kids tell you that they're popular. When you're later on, you're out, you graduated, you've gone out into the world, normal is the way that the people that have the power, the people who are in charge, the people who are running the show, the boss or the people with a lot of money, they tell you this is who you should be.
Yes, they do.
And they conveniently make sure that they're the ones that are considered normal, and they ignore all of the ways that they're abnormal because they want you to think you should be like them.
I used to belong to an organization called Toastmasters. And in Toastmasters, we learned to become better speakers. Somebody suggested we should each come up with a topic, put it in a hat. You draw out a topic and you do a 5-minute speech on it. When it came my turn, I took the topic, then I gave this impromptu speech. The person who wrote it once I was done said, "That isn't what I had in mind at all." That wasn't the objective.
Right.
The objective was, here is this thing. Give a speech about it. The fact that she said that isn't what I had in mind at all made her judge me automatically by thinking my impromptu speech was wrong. It was wrong in her mind. That didn't make it wrong at all.
That's right. That says more about who she is than it says about who you are.
Yes. I could do a speech about that.
The fourth way that this word normal gets weaponized is, and this is the worst part about all, is by making people police themselves. I just want to be normal. I think of that teenage boy or girl or that teenage non-binary person sitting in their room crying, saying, I wish this could go away. I wish I could just pray this away and I could just be normal like everybody else. And the heart cry and the feeling of, I don't want to be different. I don't want to be singled out, because especially in those early years when you're figuring out who you are, you're enough of an adult that you can start to make your mark in the world. But yet the world tells you, you better not be too different. You better not be too weird, because otherwise people will make fun of you. And the pressure.
And I believe you went through that. It wasn't until you were 40 years old that you transitioned.
It took me a very long time. And you know the reason why?
Because you just wanted to be normal.
Because normal had been weaponized against me.
Yes.
And not only did I police myself, but I policed others. So what do we do about this? How do we get past this weaponization of this word normal? We'll talk about that right after Andy tells you why Dad's jokes are the worst part of this podcast.
Hi, I'm Andy Barrett, a Lutheran pastor and a supporter of this podcast. I see Transcendent as a ministry. I've pointed many people toward these recorded conversations full of so much heart and care and warmth, as well as some of Joe's jokes, which are hands down the worst part of this podcast. But even they make me smile. I'm one of the many genuinely blessed by Transcendent, and I encourage you to join me in supporting this podcast by giving as little as $3 a month. Go to transcendent.com and click support.
Thank you, Pastor Andy. So what we're really talking about here is not whether or not being LGBTQ plus is normal. What we really care about is it harmful? Because usually that will be kind of smuggled in the back door. People say, well, it's not normal. And what they really mean is it's not okay. It's not good. It's not right.
It's not acceptable.
It's not acceptable. And what we want to say is it is all of those things, that none of those things matter. None of those, being gay or lesbian or transgender is not a moral category.
That's right.
And so there's lots of ways that we see that. We see that all through science, that it's not harmful. Now, they used to think that it was a disorder to be gay or lesbian.
But that is no longer the case. And in fact, it hasn't been the case since 1973 by the American Psychiatric Association. They removed from the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders homosexuality. The American Psychological Association not only endorsed being gay, lesbian, but also bisexual as a normal expression of human sexuality. Remember, that's 1973. That's a long time ago. And still, people are not accepting it.
Right. And I can't stress how important this is. If you're not familiar with the DSM is the manual, not one manual among others. It is the manual that is used by mental health professionals. And it's used for all kinds of things. When they code things for insurance purposes, it's all based on the DSM and on the definitions that are given there. And what happened was, prior to 1973, it had really been put in there because it was an unconscious bias, and nobody thought much about it. It had been put in there, well, of course it's weird to be gay or lesbian. Of course you don't want to be gay or lesbian or bisexual. So yeah, put that in there because that's a disorder. they had really bought into this fallacy that being not normal is being wrong, disordered.
Oh, not only was it in the DSM, in some cases, in many cases, it was a law. You could be put in jail for that. In some countries, you might be killed for it.
Right. Now, they've done lots of other things too to find out that it's not a disorder. It's not a deviance in a way that even that word deviance sounds, you are deviant. But all that the word deviance means is you are deviating from a statistical norm. Well, what they found out here is they did a lot of twin studies. For instance, Psychological Science in 2000, an article by Bailey and everyone else in that study found that twins are genetically influenced to have their orientation. Now, that's not the only reason. It's, in other words, your genes is not the only thing that makes you gay or lesbian or bisexual or transgender or those things, but it is a large part of it because they found that twins, even when they had different upbringings and different whatever, were much more likely to have the same sexual orientation than you would expect if it was just all based on social upbringing.
Of course, that didn't come out until 2000. And you can imagine just these couple of points that we're making where they're coming out and saying definitively, we know that this is not a disorder. This is normal. You can imagine when you look 50 years ahead, how so much more that is now being misused will be changed. That will happen, and it will happen as long as we stay united together.
Another way that we can fight the way that the word normal is used as a weapon against us is by recognizing that LGBTQ people have existed in every culture at every time all through history. There is not a single culture that you can look to that doesn't have LGBTQ people all over the place if you're watching for it.
Of course.
So, for instance, in our culture, we're often looking back to ancient Greece and ancient Rome, and you see same-sex love all over the place in art and literature. Plato, in Plato's Republic, and even a few of his other dialogues, made it very clear that Socrates had some same-sex relations, and it was not considered strange or different at all. It was just a normal thing.
And we only need to look at the indigenous people in North America to discover that they are actually honored. They're called two-spirit people. They're honored as sacred. It's something special to become somebody out there who is two-spirited.
And that actually will be the number. You sometimes will hear people talk when they do the expanded LGBTQ plus acronym. They'll say LGBTQ plus 2IA and so on and so forth. There's other letters, but the 2 in 2IA comes from two-spirit. I remember hearing about that when I was first transitioning, that how normal this is. And I thought, wow, that it's very different to me. I have never gotten to meet somebody that identifies as two-spirit, but I've seen this come up frequently. And for my friends in Native culture and indigenous people groups have told me, yes, this is very much a thing, and it is how our society has always looked at what our society would call transgender people.
Yes.
And I have, if you recall, the episode that we did with our friends Amira and Julia, that was, I think, a year and a half ago, a Muslim couple that are married. They're two trans women. They have told me about in South Asia, the Hijra community, which again, it's typically transgender women. And so people that were assigned male at birth and then figured out this is not for me, and they transitioned to live their most authentic lives. And that is a place. I mean, there's a whole culture and an understanding about what that means. Again, I'm way beyond my element in that. I just know we've had some conversations for the purposes of this podcast. What we really need to know is lots of cultures have not only said, yes, it's okay to be trans, but have actually created a special space for transgender people in that culture, saying, we honor these people because they have something really special.
And one of those people was Leonardo da Vinci, who was very much revered for all of the things he created and for the phenomenal things that he was able to understand and pass on to other people.
And lots of other people whose names you would know. Julius Caesar and Alexander the Great. There is Isaac Newton. Was LGBTQ. Walt Whitman. Oscar Wilde. Emily Dickinson. Lily Elba. Virginia Woolf. Wilfred Owen. Josephine Baker. Frida Kahlo. Lots of people all through time. Bayard Rustin, we talked about him in one of our earlier podcasts about LGBTQ history. Billie Holiday. I mean, the list goes on and on. James Baldwin. And one of the classic ones is the poet Sappho, which is where we get the word lesbian from. She was an ancient Greek poet on the Isle of Lesbos. And people said, oh, you know how those people are out there on Lesbos, a bunch of lesbians out there. And that is where we got that term from. She was really a pretty amazing poet. She was one of the best poets of her day. I would say she was kind of like the Taylor Swift of her day. She wrote a lot of songs and then they were performed far and wide in Greek culture at the time.
You know, if she wouldn't have been on the island of Lesbos, but would have been on, say, Easter Island, you'd all be Eastern.
Easterian? Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And so all through time we've seen this. And I think recognizing that we have our place in history and that, yes, we may deviate from the standard, but that doesn't make us quote unquote deviants. That doesn't make us bad. That doesn't make us less than. And it can sometimes feel like I'm so sick of having to fight. I'm sick of having to stand up and declare, I am not a weirdo.
Right. And the fact that you run across people who might say that, it's because of their lack of education and understanding that comes out. Once they actually do a little work, a little reference work to find out, they realize that I got it wrong. And there is no excuse for that. It is just a lack of education. And I will tell you, whether you are LGBTQ or whether you are a supporter of LGBTQ people or whether you are just questioning, know that it's normal. It truly, sincerely is proven to be normal.
But of course, the purpose of this podcast is to let you know that not only is it normal, but even if it wasn't, it does not make it wrong. So be who you are.
Exactly.
Be your weird, freaky self. Wear the crazy clothes that you love to wear. Be your most authentic, most true to yourself version of who you are. Don't let the world tell you that you don't get to be who you are.
And I'm going to celebrate that tomorrow night at dinner. I'm going to eat all my beans first.
Yes, you will. And the night after that, and the night after that. Well, I will tell you, listener, we are grateful to have you coming back here week after week. We are attempting every week to bring you a message of positivity so that you can go forth into the world and be the change that we want to see happen.
And I want to thank some of you out there. we are suddenly getting from very small towns more than one listener, 2 or 3 listeners in that same town, because you are doing what we've been asking you to do. Please share this with others. That's occurring more and more. And as you share that, you are really helping us to get the word out and to help everyone else to become their authentic selves and be accepted by the world.
And with that,
We'll see you Monday.